Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the Send and Receive ACH Payments webinar with Synctera. I see that we have around 33 people, so let's give everyone a couple of minutes to join. Okay, one more minute and I'm going to kick it off. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today in the webinar. We'll go through the send and receive ACH payments process with Synctera. I'm going to take you first through our agenda for today. So we are going to go first through a round of introductions. We are going to introduce ourselves, that we are going to spend the next hour together. We are going to also introduce what Synctera is to everyone and go through what is ACH. This section is more general knowledge on ACH. And we will take you through ACH processing scenarios with examples. Also, we want to talk briefly about ACH reconciliation and settlement processes, as well as the list of capabilities available to send and receive ACH payments in the Synotera platform. Also, I would like to take you through the Synotera Architecture. And lastly, jump into create an ACH with Synctera, which is going to be a technical demo of our product. And then I would like to leave a few minutes, about 15 minutes, 10 minutes for a Q&A session with everyone in the webinar. Okay, so let me introduce myself. So I'm Raquel. I'm a senior product manager at Synctera. My area of focus is ledger, accounts, and payments. And ACH is one of the products that I work with pretty often. And Steve, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm kind of like it says over there, I'm the platform lead engineer for payments ledgering. And I'm sort of the technical side to Raquel's expertise.
Okay, so let me take you first about, let me talk to you a little bit about Synctera for the ones that don't know too much about us. At Synctera, we bring community banks and FinTechs together. And we are a marketplace as well as a technology platform that provides everything that you need to start a FinTech and a successful partnership with a bank. And we also streamline the day-to-day operations, the regulatory compliance and reconciliation processes to accelerate the time to market through our development platform. So that's a very high-level overview of what Synctera is for the ones that they don't have that background. Also, what is really important to us, especially when we think about product development, is our mission. Our mission is to be the fastest and easiest way to build the future of FinTech banking. So this is important because when we think about our products and the problems that we are trying to solve, we really think about us as the center of it. Okay, so this set, I'm going to jump into ACH. So ACH transfers are used to move funds electronically in between two parties. So two parties are going to be usually in two different banks and are going to be two different accounts. So ACH are used to move funds in between, for example, Bank of America and Chase Bank. It is one of the largest payments networks in the US. And I think the volumes speak to it. The ACH network moved $61.86 trillion in 2020, with a total of 26.79 billion payments. That says that a lot of the payments that we currently have in the system are ACH. And they are used for many type of payments. So you think about it, for example, your gym membership is processed to an ACH. Also your bill payments for utilities and even your payroll deposit is an ACH payment. ACH operate under the NACHA operating rules. So NACHA stands for the National Automated Clearinghouse Association. And NACHA sets and enforces the ACH rules and handles the definition of new technical requirements and transaction types. So an example of these definitions is last year, NACHA introduced a return type that is called R11. So NACHA will take care of those things, making sure that everything is aligned and the formats are followed. In terms of regulation, really is in between the Federal Reserve Bank and NACHA. So the Federal Reserve Bank really plays the role in ACH as the regulator, really the ACH operator, and is going to provide also the settlement services with the participants, which are the banks. So that's the role of the Federal Reserve in ACH. So important point as well is that ACH handles both debit and credits, which can be identified as a push, which is an ACH credit, is a payment from account to another account, and then a pull, which is going to be debiting an account. So this is the general knowledge on ACH. And what I would like to do is to take you through an example of a traditional ACH. So in this case, we are going to take you through an account funding through an ACH debit. So in this case, we are going to have a bank customer, which is going to be the customer of Bow Bank. And they want to fund their account and put money in their account, basically debiting an internal account, an account in an external bank, which is going to be called Great Bank in this example. So to be able to debit an external bank account, they will have to go through a verification, which traditionally is going to be a verification that you really own that external bank account or that you have an agreement to debit external bank accounts. And then Wow Bank, after they do the verification, is going to send that ACH file that is going to be instructing the debit. Great Bank is going to receive it and process it. So let me take you through this process step by step in the traditional banking landscape. So in this case, we are going to have the Wow Bank customer that wants to fund their account. They want to really move funds from their Great Bank account to Wow Bank. Then Wow Bank is going to have to go through a verification process and say, hey, do you really own that account in Great Bank, or you have an agreement for me to be able to debit that account? After the verification process, Wow Bank is going to process a payment that is going to credit the customer account that initiates the payment, and usually is going to be held for a couple of days until the payment is being verified. Then Wow Bank is going to create an ACH file that is exchanged with the Fed multiple times a day. Every bank has a different schedule with the Fed, fairly similar, but different, specifically different. And it's a batch process. Then the Fed is going to receive that file, and then it's going to route it to whoever needs to receive the payment. In this case, it's going to be Great Bank. Then after Great Bank receives the file, the Great Bank customer account is going to be debited as the customer wanted in the beginning of the process. So this is a happy path process. So if you think about it, this is a closed system. It's a system that is going bank to bank, passing through the Fed. So if you are a fintech, the question is going to be, how do I enter this system? How am I able to send and receive payments, enter the settlement system. So the first thing you have to do is say, okay, I would probably need to find a partnership with a bank. And then once you have a partnership with a bank as a fintech, you have to decide whether you want to use the core of the bank to be able to process those payments, if you want to use a different processor to generate the NATA files that they have on a specific format and the exchange with the Fed. So as a fintech, it takes effort to be able to come into the system and exchange payments in NATA. So when we thought about it in Synctera, we were thinking, how can we streamline and make this process as simple as possible to fintechs? And this is how we came up with our ACH product. We thought really at the end is going to be, for the fintech, is going to be a couple of API calls to be able to generate these payments. So let's go through what we need to do here. So the first thing that you need to do is, like, if you are a fintech, is start partnership with a bank. So you will end up with a partnership with a bank. After you have the partnership with the bank, you really are going to be doing your focusing on the app development, and then within the app, you will be able to tell your customers, fund my account, and that's the funding process. And within the funding process, two things need to happen. The same as the traditional bank, but very simplified, which is going to be verify that the funding account belongs to that customer. And the second step is going to be create that ACH. So the fintech is going to call those two APIs. And then the fintech customer account is going to get credited, whether the fintech wants to put a hold of funds or wants to fund immediately. That is something that can be decided. And also in the Synctera system, what we are going to do is, like, okay, we have now that payment order, the customer is created, and now we generate the ACH file and exchange it at the scheduled times with the sponsor bank. Then the sponsor bank is going to send it to the Fed is going to send it to Great Bank in this case, and now the money is going to make it all the way to Great Bank and debit the customer account. So really, if you think about it from the fintech perspective, entering the ACH system is really those API calls with Synctera. So this is, both of these scenarios that I presented are happy path. One thing that is really important to us, and we need to talk about, is returns. Not everything goes well all the time. And sometimes by the time the payment hits the external bank, in this case, it's going to be Great Bank, we can have errors. And that's what we talk when we talk about ACH returns. The most common ones is insufficient funds. So for example, by the time, we know that this process is in batch, right? So by the time it gets to Great Bank, then you're going to have insufficient funds, or maybe the account was closed in between. So at that point, we are going to have to process ACH returns. And returns are received as incoming ACH with special instructions and checks to make sure that they are compliant with NATA rules. And also returns need to be processed against the customer accounts. Even though they are returned, they need to be processed. So the same thing as we did for outgoing ACH and be able to get ACH money to external bank accounts, we thought about how can we simplify this process for the fintechs. So really, the process in this case starts with the Fed. The Fed is going to reroute the files to the bank, and those files are going to have those returns in them. Then those files come to the bank, and then really the bank is going to drop those files for us to process for the fintechs. And then in Synctera, in our platform, we validate the return against the rules and the format to make sure that every return that is processed in the Synctera platform is compliant with the rules. We process the returns against the fintech customer account, and we notify the fintech when the return is processed. So what we are doing here is really the fintech at the end of the process can notify their users of a return, and they are notified as well as a fintech. Sorry, I'm having a technical, there you go, a small technical issue. Okay, so really, oh, sorry. As a FinTech, we are going to, as a FinTech, you have a notification saying that the return is being processed. So the return process is all streamlined. Okay, so thinking about your returns, your credits and debits. Now we put a bunch of payments in the networks. Now we have payments with the Fed, we have payments with other banks, payments that are processing ledgers. So what is really important and is core of the operational process for ACH is the ability to reconcile all the ACH payments that are sent to networks and sent to banks. So what we do in Synctera is we have a reconciliation platform that ensures that all payments exchanged with the sponsor banks and the networks have been successfully processed in Synctera ledger. Why is this so important? It's because the ACH operators, which are the banks, need to calculate the net settlement totals for ACH on a daily basis. So to be able to calculate those totals and say, yeah, those totals are correct against the process payments, that's where reconciliation comes into place. And we perform an auto matching on transactions. So this is an automated process. The settlement process is something that happens in between the Fed and the bank. So the Fed is going to debit and credit the banks on a daily basis based on all the payments for ACH that have been processed for the day before. So where the Synctera platform helps to the sponsor banks is to calculate the daily settlement amount per FinTech. This way, what we do is we facilitate the operations for the ACH settlement process for the sponsor banks. Okay, so everything that I went through is ACH end-to-end. And now what I would like to do is to take you through what are the capabilities that allow Synctera FinTech to process ACH end-to-end. So really the capabilities to send and receive are the following. So we'll have create and KYC customers. So the first thing that you need to do is like, okay, I want to create a customer and I want to KYC my customer. And we do all of these things via API in the Synctera platform. Then after you have a customer that is fully KYC, now you can create an account. So now you create a customer account, and this customer account is created with a proper routing number and is recognized in the network as an account to exchange the ACH. Then what you need to do is also external account verification. As we said, verify external accounts is required to send ACH debit by the network. So now the verification will be a next step. And then you can create an ACH. So now you have a verified account with a customer, and now you can create an ACH, and this ACH will, this process will generate the file to exchange with the bank and the Fed. So now you are in the network and you are exchanging payments. We also process incoming ACH files for the FinTech. So we process those incoming files with debits, credits, and returns. We have also the ACH settlement and reconciliation capabilities. So we are able to reconcile and settle daily and supporting the settlement for the banks. We process the exception, which are the returns, whether it's an incoming return or we create outgoing returns, is part of the exception processing in the Synctera platform. We also, we haven't talked too much about this one, but super important. Every incoming and outgoing ACH transaction that is happening through the Synctera platform is actually a fraud monitor, and it's happening in real time. So every payment that is out there is being monitored. Okay, so this said, let's go through a quick high-level overview of the Synotera architecture. Okay, so the Synotera architecture. First of all of our APIs are available into our development site in Synctera. So go to the website and have a look to the APIs. What we do is like we have as an entry point, you will have your create customer APIs, you have your KYC, create account, verify external account, and create ACH. So as a fintech, you integrate with those APIs, and the Synctera platform keeps, for example, the customer records. We have your customer records in there that can be modified. We have the accounts, and we manage the ledgering system. So we have all the payments are managed and the accounting. We also do all the fraud checks behind the scenes. So that's what we were talking about, the real-time fraud. We have the creation of ACH files, the ACH settlement process that enables the operations, and also all the ACH operational processes, which is your day-to-day operations, can be handled through the Synctera platform. We also are able to receive ACH files that contains all of those credits, debits directed to the fintech. And on both sides, we have those connections to the banks. So as we mentioned, the sponsor banks are going to be connected to the Synctera platform to drop files, and for us to drop files to the banks, and the banks are connected directly to the Fed to be able to enter the ACH network. So this is the Synctera architecture at a high level. And then what I would like to do after talking about all this theory of ACH and the examples is actually to create an ACH and do a live demo of our APIs. So what we want to do in this live demo is we'll look at a customer, we look at also the KYC status of that customer. We are going to do debits and credits. So because we are doing debits and credits, we want to link the external account to make sure that the ownership is correct. And we will be creating debits and credits in the ACH. And also we will send an outgoing file to the network, or we will look at an outgoing file. So I'm going to pass this to Steve and start going through the demo.
Okay, thanks, Raquel. Yeah, checking account. So hopefully everybody can see this. We'll try to sort of demonstrate this as a flow through Postman, but many of you can imagine that normally this would be done through code, and we'll also use a bit of the our sandbox UI to see some of the results. So starting, we'll skip a few of the sort of setup steps, but just to get an idea of what's required, this is normally where you would create a customer. For example, we have Alberta Charlson here. You can see that her customer status is active and that her KYC status is accepted. So KYC stands for Know Your Customer, and it's a requirement essentially to prevent things like fraud and money laundering. So Alberta here has already been KYC'd. And she has over the sort of regular typical customer details, legal and shipping address. You can see pretty much every one of the KYC checks that we've run on this customer, and they're quite extensive. We can see all of her sort of any cards that are attached, any accounts, of which there are none at the moment. And this would be the sort of initial steps before doing anything else. So customer creation, KYC. And we can see that through the API, we'd be able to, for example, fetch Alberta's details. And this is them right here. You can see that we're also masking sensitive details in the output. All of that is handled automatically.
Steve, just a quick question. I think we have a few comments on the chat to zoom in your browser, please. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Is that better? let's zoom in a little bit in Postman too.
There you go.
That should be a bit more visible, I hope. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can see again Alberta's details as a response from the API, including all the pertinent stuff. Again, SSN masking, everything's handled automatically. And the next step is to essentially create an account for Alberta so that she can transact on the system. We're going to do the API call right here. It's going to base off of a sort of account template, which is base configuration that sets a few limits by default, and things like interest calculations. There's quite a few features supported. So in her case, we're going to create a pretty simple, straightforward checking account, and immediately associate her with that account. Let me just move this out of the way. So we have the response from the account creation. We created a checking account for her. We have the bank routing. We have her account number. We can see that it's already active, balances. This essentially gets an account going, and we can take a look in the UI. We're going to see that same checking account appear right here. The next step for Alberta to be able to essentially fund her FinTech account would be to try and pull, for example, some funds out of a personal bank, a personal account in another bank. And this is where we're gonna create the relationship between the checking account and Alberta. This also enables things like parent-child, but that's maybe a feature for another discussion. We can take a look at all of the accounts associated with Alberta. Again, this is all available via API and the UI. So you'd be able to use that. And now we're going to do account verification. So like Raquel was explaining, one of the somewhat maybe tricky flows of ACH is that when you're originating ACH, it is effectively a debit is a pull transaction. So it kind of has a catch that if you know someone's account number, some external account number, you would essentially be able to pull funds from any account you want. So to prevent that from happening, we want the person to prove that they own the external account. And the way we do that is one of the vendors we support is Plaid. And we're going to run this flow right here. So we're going to initiate the flow to get a linked token. I'm going to grab this token right here. This is a demo environment, but normally there would be, this is where you'd have either the option to use sort of our built-in libraries or develop your own, but the flow would roughly remain the same. So this is where Alberta herself, for example, would be able to go and say, well, I have a Chase account and I would like to log into it. And password. And let's say Plaid is able to see the available accounts. We're going to select her external checking account at Chase and link that up. This will take a moment. And then once again, normally this would all be run through API, but we're going to execute this by hand. Take the public token, and we will be able to exchange our public token against an access token. In the process, also linking all of this to Alberta. And we will be able to grab the access token here. And the next step is, now that we've sort of verified that Alberta, in fact, owns this external account at Chase, we're going to create an external account in our system to represent this fact. So you can see at the moment, she only has this checking account and a verified external account, but no object in our system. So we already have the access token. We will need the Plaid vendor ID right here. We'll create that, and we can see the response. We have an external account created with all of its information automatically populated. We can see it's been verified by Plaid, and if we refresh here, we're going to see that we now have a checking account on the system, and we have her external Chase account. And now we're essentially almost fully on the way to be able to pull funds from this external account into her FinTech checking account. So the next step is to take a quick look at her external accounts. Once again, we see that the association is correct. Everything is there and populated. We can take a look at the external account balance as well. So we can see that this is the account has $100. And then we're also able to fetch the external accounts transactions, which is a very valuable thing, again, in terms of preventing fraud and doing verification. And this is where you would be able to, for example, run flows like challenging a customer to ask them about a recent transaction, for example, which is a very common bank verification flow. And we can see that we have some sample transactions from her external account. All of this, once again, available via our API. And pretty much the last step would be to originate an ACH transaction. And we will say, replace some details. New ref, actually, this is where you might say something like internal reference 345. And somewhat counterintuitively, ACH, when originating a debit, is effectively a credit to the customer's account. And we try to mirror that fact in the API. So essentially here, we're originating a debit from her Synctera checking account and towards her Chase external account, and it's a debit. So it's effectively sending a debit to this account, which will credit her Synctera account. And we're going to send, let's try a slightly larger amount. This is going to be in cents, and we will say $15.62. Run that, and we can see that it seems like our fraud detection is stepping in the way. And you can see that, for example, our provider for fraud checks is flagging this transaction as a possible fraud. And this is where the origination would be declined and up for review, and a case would be created. And all of the reasons would be available here. The fraud check failed, some codes, all of which you'd be able to look up. So that would be a failing transaction. And this is a very, very normal flow. You'd usually want to follow up on this and investigate. Working origination on Alberta would be this 10-cent transaction here. And if we take a look at her transaction listing, so this is from a previous run. We wouldn't be able to proceed with the other test account because once it's been flagged for fraud, it would need to be investigated before they'd be able to transact again. So looking at a successful one, we originated a 10-cent transaction, all the details, all of which we can see here. We can see that it's an outgoing debit. It was in fact a credit to the account itself. We can also see the offsetting account, which is the Fed settlement account Raquel had mentioned earlier. And this would be the transaction listing. And if we take a look at the balances, they're all here. And to see an example sort of what happens behind the scenes, sort of a big key point here is that there's a lot of complexity involved with ACH and a lot of moving parts and a lot of things required to conform to the standard. And behind the scenes, the Synctera platform would generate a valid ACH file that would be sent to the bank. A sample looks like this. And you can kind of see that it's not exactly the most readable format. And again, it takes, it's somewhat dated at this point. And it takes a good deal of sort of moving pieces to make sure that these are correct and validate, and that they route properly from bank to Fed to the receiving bank and back. And the sort of second leg of this flow is that if on the other end, for example, there was not enough money in the account, or the account doesn't exist, this is where returns come in, and the receiving bank would originate a file back, which would be automatically processed by Synctera systems, and we would see a return show up on the account. And depending on the kind of configuration or how you would like to operate, you'd be able to automatically process them, or by default we would send them to suspense, and somebody would be able to take a look at them as sort of an open case. So that is pretty much the extent of the flow. Raquel?
Okay. Did we go through the file as well? Do you have a sample file? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. This is the sample file right here. Should we, sorry, I'm not able to see the comments in the chat, but should we go through the details of the file? Sure. So this is pretty much a standard ACH file, and you can see it's a sort of a fixed width format that includes also fixed width fields, each record being 94 bytes, which kind of implies that the only valid encodings for these files is ASCII, and at least according to the Nacha spec, although dealing with the occasional Latin 1 is something that we have to do, and that's handled automatically. Another detail here is that you can see for example, the destination routing number. You can see the source routing number, some details about the file's origination date and time, record types, and then it follows with a variable length record, and it's essentially a batch and transaction type format. So you have a batch header, and then you have the transactions inside of the batch, and then you have a batch footer, and it's sort of a kind of a self-verifying file. So many details of the header and the footer of each batch essentially validate what is inside the batch. So you would have sums of debits and credits, the originator of the batch, you'd have the account number per transaction, you'd have the account number of the destination account, some custom fields, names, company names, and trace numbers, which let you uniquely identify an ACH transaction. And then the file footer itself will actually include some totals, where a hash of the contents will be present, and a complete sum of debits and credits for all the batches in the file. And that's something that lets you verify that the contents are correct and match up, and sort of complete the file validation flow. So yeah.
Awesome.
Let me stop sharing here for a second.
Okay, so I think we have a few questions in the Q&A. So why don't we go through the questions? Okay, so a few of them have been answered already. So go to the chat to have a look to them. And then on the ones that we are getting right now live. So the first question is, does Synctera give a client the ability to provide early direct deposits to clients' users? So direct deposit as early direct deposit as a feature is actually in our roadmap. You can do this as well through the capability of ACH, but it's currently in roadmap. And if you would like to understand the timing, please contact us and we can give you those. Also, the second question is from Andres, is what sec codes do we support? And also, how do you set up values that go into the file, like company ID, company name, individual ID? Okay, so good. So we support all the sec codes as per NATA. So we are able to support all the sec codes, and the values that go into the header and they go into the batch, like company ID, company name, and individual ID, they are set up as per the bank. So it will be agreed between the bank and the fintech. We set up those, and then we will send it all the time as part of our platform setup. And then, do you support contested dishonored returns? Yes, we do. We support contested dishonored returns. We haven't talked to them about it. We haven't talked about them today. But basically, that's the scenario where we send a return and then the return gets dishonored, or we receive an incoming dishonored return and we have to process. Yes, we do support those processes. Okay, another question that we have from Anonymous. Does each fintech get its own ACH company ID? The bank is required to monitor each originator for return rates, so the bank must be able to identify the fintechs as well. That's actually correct. The ACH company ID is set up per fintech, and we do have also the reporting on the return rates. So that's something that we support as well. So if you're a bank and you want to see your return rates per fintech, that's something that we support in the Synctera platform as well. And another question is like, do the ACH debits have to be sent to an FBO account and the fintech settlement bank, or can the payment be processed directly to the end recipient bank? I don't understand very well this question. I don't know if you are talking about outgoing debits, if they've been sent first to an FBO and then processed, or you're talking about incoming debits. Steve, maybe you understand the last question. I think.
I was trying to sort of, let me see if I can pick this. ACH would have to be sent to an FBO account at the FinTech settlement bank, or can the payment be processed directly to the end recipient bank? So I hope I'm understanding it correctly, but the flow is essentially that the sum of the FinTech customers' accounts lives in a real FBO account on the bank side. And when the ACH file is originated, the bank will pick it up and essentially perform only one movement for any debit, or rather two. For any debit or credit in the ACH file, they will sum them up and do one debit from the FBO to the Fed settlement account, and vice versa for credits from the Fed settlement to the FBO account. And the idea is that we ledger the whole thing, and the bank only has to ever deal with pretty much two transactions, the FBO, between the FBO account and the Fed settlement. And it's the same for incoming files. So when a file, when a file comes in, the bank will essentially look at the sum total of debits, sum total of credits, perform a single movement or two movements, debits and credits, against the FBO and the Fed settlement, and then forward the file to us. And we will be able to process the file at the individual transaction level and sort of route the ledger the funds correctly per customer. Does that sort of make it more clear?
Okay, let's go through the next question. I think there is another question following up that one. Let's go through the next one. That is, can we do ACH transactions to banks that aren't available in Plaid, like manually using the routing number and the account number? Well, you can if it's an ACH credit. So you can say, I want to send money to this person. But for ACH debit, you need to actually demonstrate ownership or agreement with the external institution. So yes, you can do it with the ones that are not Plaid, with another service that is called micro deposits. So you need to be able to go through a micro deposit, present a paper for a debit micro deposit, present a paper or Plaid. But we also have micro deposits. So you will be able to do it through the ones that are not supported directly through Plaid.
Just to add a small thing here is that we will support additional vendors over time. But just like Raquel said, manual verification is very important to prevent essentially fraud on outgoing debits. Now, even in the credit case, there are still requirements to perform OFAC checks, which we support as well in line.
Yeah, so that's the answer to that one. And then another question for Sean is, can a user pay bills such as cell phone and mortgage, for example? So yes, they can pay bills through ACH. That's part of the ACH processing. Another question, I think this is the follow-up on the FBO account, is like, why do the payments have to go through the FinTechs FBO account and not directly from sender to recipient? I think that's a little bit of misunderstanding. They don't go through a FinTech FBO. They go from sender to recipient, we send the file, and the payment is processed. The FBO account is used for the operational processes on the bank side. So two separate things. Payments go through account to account, operations are supported through FBO accounts. All the operations are usually processed through internal accounts. Any considerations for same-day ACH? And there is support for instant ACH. So same day, we support both. We support same-day ACH through a platform, and we also support the normal ACH schedule. And so we have both in the platform, and then the instant ACH, I think you are talking here about the new payment rail, which is the RTR. That one, we don't have support right now on the RTR. There is only a few banks on it. And as soon as it's ready, we will look into maybe integrating with them as well.
An important consideration on instant and same day is also risk profile. Making the funds available immediately may be somewhat dependent also on the sponsor bank. So we fully support same day, and possibly will support instant as well, but it's always good to keep in mind the requirements of the sponsor bank.
And then a question from Andres is, does Synctera ACH can be integrated with any core via API? So right now, our API integrates with our core. That's the current functionality with our ledger. That's how it works right now. And I see Sean saying thanks. Thank you, Sean. Any other questions? Okay, so one of the things that I would like to bring up as well is our Slack community. So we have
sorry, Raquel, I think we have one more.
Okay, let me go to the questions. Sorry, Steve, can you read it loud? I don't, I lost my screen. There you go.
Yep, that's all good. Sean asks, can we have other data sources? I'm not sure what the data sources would be. If we're talking fund sources, this would be anything supported, anything that can essentially operate as a valid account and that can be transacted with via ACH. So if somebody is fronting accounts and transacts again over the ACH network, that would be available. But I'm hoping I'm understanding the question correctly. Outside of, sorry, I should have scrolled down. Outside of planned. And does that affect this process, such as MX and Yodlee? So kind of the key point is the ability to do the verification. So we would be pretty happy to support any vendor that allows verified accounts to transact. So outside of the technical answer is yes, but it depends entirely on whether verification is available and whether we can perform an no-fact check, let's say on outgoing funds. So I'm not entirely sure how this affects MX or Yodlee. Raquel, do you know?
No, I actually would like to talk to you, Sean, about your process, and then have a look to what you need specifically on those ones. I think to look at your specific use case.
So I'm being also told that if it's the question is sort of competitors to Plaid, then once again, I believe we'd be happy to work with any vendors allowing sort of Plaid-like functionality, and I don't see any immediate reason why we wouldn't integrate them. Again, they seem to only expand our support and allow more types of accounts and easier transacting. So the general answer would be yes. And I think we have some more questions. Thanks, Sean. Is there any way to process a file where neither the debit credit client holds an account at the ODFI? You as the fintech provider banks at the ODFI and would work the return file only. So basically it would be multiple debit file with one credit to the merchant. Or the client doesn't hold an account at the ODFI. So that's actually the common case. We fully support this case, and in most instances, the only account that truly exists at the sponsor bank would be the FBO, and the FBO and sort of other supporting accounts. So the fintech specific Fed settlement, operational accounts, that type of stuff. And we would be able to process, normally it would take an outbound and an inbound file. But the only really important point is that the account exists in the Synctera platform. So if the target, let's say, of an incoming file is a Synctera platform account, which does not exist in the sponsor bank's core, we would be able to process it just fine. So incoming credits and debits would work perfectly fine. You would be able to originate as well, but if you choose not to, that's good too. So yep, hopefully that answers the question. And if the rerun of the returns would be passed on to the merchant if they were unsuccessful. So if the rerun of the returns would be passed on to the merchant. I think by natural rules, if there is a return, it would simply make its way back to the originator, and it would behave as a regular return. So sort of a key point is that we try to be fully, sorry, not try to be, we are fully NACHA compliant. And as long as the information in the file, as long as the file is valid, and as long as the information in the file is processable in a way that makes sense. So the account exists on our side, that FinTech itself exists, we would be able to process them perfectly fine. So that seems to covered it. Thank you. Raquel.
Okay, so with a couple of minutes left, please, if you have any questions, contact us at Synctera. We have a Slack community. Join us in the Slack community. It's free. You can ask all the questions that you would like to ask about ACH, and we can always hop into a call with you. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.